Well, good morning. Thanks for joining me for another edition of Jim Wilson's FNN Fishing News Network. And before I get started, I have some very sad news to report, and I do want to send my condolences out to the family of Bill Haston. My dear friend Bill passed away about a week ago, and it was just so sad because Bill, for one thing, was known as the flounder expert here in the Bay. And Bill was 87 years old, and right up until the last day he had been working at Howell Tackle, and we all just dearly love Bill and will greatly miss him. And I was fortunate enough to be asked to write something for him, and I did, and it's on the back of the obituary card. But I do want to say that unfortunately I didn't get to go to the services or the calling hours because I ended up back in the hospital again for Tuesday and got out on Wednesday. I had a blood pressure problem. Always something trying to stay on this side of the grass, but I just try to think it's part of getting old, and glad I'm on this side of the grass. But anyway, we have got two special people coming up today to talk about a very serious problem that we as recreational fishermen have in the Gulf. And we're going to have on Pam Anderson and our Congressman Steve Sutherland, because they have both been working diligently to try and protect our fishing industries in the Gulf of Mexico. It's being fought tooth and nail by the EDF, that's the Environmental Defense Fund, and the Pew Environmental Trust, and the Nature Conservancy. And these groups have billions of dollars to buy their way and influence things. And that's what's causing stuff like the king crab, that's Dr. Roy Crabtree, giving us an 11-day red snapper season. Totally ridiculous. That's like telling somebody with an orange grove that this year you can only pick 200 bushels of oranges, let the rest rot on the tree. It's almost that bad. And you're going to be very interested in, particularly if you love fishing the Gulf, on what these two people have to say and what they're doing, and doing their very best to try and protect it for us. There's so many inconsistencies going on out there, it's unbelievable. Before we forget about it, let's take a look and see what our tides are doing for the day. And as you can see, we got a pretty good tide. We didn't get to see the eclipse here. We were sort of eclipsed by thunder and lightning. But the folks who did certainly will remember it for a long, long time. I can remember seeing them in the past, and even a solar eclipse of the sun one time. So I've been around a while. But we did have one, and that was very, very interesting if we could have gotten to see it. But back to the fishing here. I've been getting some fishing reports, and believe it or not, I talked to Captain Jerry Anderson, and I also talked to Pam. Captain Ken was out on the Captain Anderson. Jerry Anderson was out on the North Star Express, and they've both been loading up with big beeliners, triggerfish, and a lot of other things. Right now they're catching a lot of red snapper, but guess what? Have to throw them back and wait until who knows when before they can start keeping them. But and there's still plenty of sheephead around, and the flounder should be on the move. Now, I haven't heard a good flounder report yet. I was at Half Hitch and asked them, I said to Gary down there, I said, Gary, what do you hear on flounder? Well, they'll be there. If we can ever get rid of this crazy weather we've had. My gosh, this has just been some of the craziest stuff that you ever think of. But in between those days, those two boats have been going out. The North Star is a half-day boat, and of course the Captain Anderson is an all-day boat. And we're going to be going back out on one of them pretty quick so we can show you some new video of some fishing out here in the Gulf. And Amberjack will be closing on June 1st, so there's other crazy kind of stuff still going on, and it's hard to figure out what you actually can be fishing for here or where. Freshwater fishing, I've been getting really good crappie reports, and of course up in any of our lakes north of here, crappie are in. Bass are doing well right now because they're coming in off the beds, and they'll be really anxious to start feeding. Lake Wimico won't be a bad place for that. And of course, there's always still plenty of redfish around, and they're not bothered by the temperature. And cobia, you saw the show last week, they caught 11 cobia the previous week, and they're starting to show up again. And it's all, the water temperatures are still hovering right around that 70-degree mark, and they need to be a little bit warmer to really get the cobia moving. Tons of pompano being caught. I've heard about more pompano this year than we've had in a long, long time, and off the piers, and also if you're fishing from a boat out off the end of the jetty and some of those places around there. Most of the people catching pompano are catching them on jigs, also pieces of fresh peeled shrimp. Remember, peeled shrimp gets the smell out, and if you're drifting the pass for redfish with peeled shrimp, when a fish hits, he's hooked. And still some Spanish and the kings are starting to show up because we're getting plenty of cigar minnows starting to show up right now. And that's, of course, one of the other main fish we'll be fishing for while we're bringing in these present times. Don't forget about our good friends at Tanya's Garden. I was at Tanya's the other day, and she's just got those beautiful strawberries coming up from down in South Florida. My gosh, the thing are as big as plums. And plenty of strawberries, zucchini, yellow squash, cucumbers, green beans, all the good stuff that it's just like going to the farm and picking your stuff because it's so fresh. It's so different than whatever you find in a store. And there's not a day that goes by, as you all know, I do all the cooking in our house. Pat does all the heavy lifting and does all the driving. Poor girl drives 200 miles each day to service her schools in 4 counties. So it's just amazing how much time she spends on the road, and it scares me to death. But we're all looking forward to today as a very happy Easter day. Let me wish you all a happy Easter. And we'll be spending it over with the grandchildren over in Pensacola because she's been waiting all year to finally see a Easter egg hunt and spend it with the grandchildren. She's got one that's just 3 months old, and the other one that's 4, and then another one that's 6, and another one that's running right at 4. So plenty of grandchildren to see and have fun with and have Easter dinner and all those kind of things. So we hope that you do too, and we'll have a nice piece of show coming up for you today. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining us.
For everything you need on or off the water, visit the Panama City and St. Andrews Marinas. Both locations provide you with easy access boat slips, ramps, fuel, bait, and tackle. Come visit our ship stores and see our unique nautical gifts and clothing, or just relax with a cool drink and grab a snack while watching the boats come in.
Don't forget that mariner on your shopping list. Come by and see our unique nautical gifts, cards, and clothing at Panama City or St. Andrews Marina. Call 872-7272 for more information.
Meet Henson Hindenburg, king of the road at Baytown Tire, 2609 West 15th Street, just before the curve. For 20 years, he's taken care of your cars, trucks, and commercial vehicles. Baytown Tire carries tires including Michelin, Yokohama, BF Goodrich, and Uniroyal. A new set gets free rotation every 6 months. Alignment is done on the latest digital equipment, and his diagnostic can read all your computer info for proper repairs. All his service folks are ASE certified. Give him a call today at 873-8900.
How will the new healthcare regulations affect you? Call Mike Nichols at Nichols & Associates, your local Florida Blue agency for the answers. Stop by today or call 747-0288.
Need a storage shed, pole barn, or garage? Who do you call? Two-time site-built buildings. They come completely prefabbed with aluminum siding and 3/4-inch floors. Constructed on your property by James McConnell and his crew. With no middleman, his prices is lower, and with easy payment terms. Here's my 12-foot by 20-foot shed that went through a 3-foot gate and anchored like a mobile home. He's been building here for 15 years. See the samples at 3822 Highway 98 in Springfield, and call today at 850-257-5729. When you want your lawn to go from this to this, you need to call Leroy Dennis and his helper Bill Grimes. They can do it in one day. Not only that, but Leroy offers discounts to seniors and active and former military. He and his partner can handle any commercial jobs. Don't wait to give them a call at 358-6696. Guess what? If you aren't satisfied, I'll pay for it myself. Don't delay. Call the experts now and look great tomorrow. Well, it's so great to have you, Congressman Sutherland, and you, Pam Anderson. Between the two of you, I think we can find out more about what's going on with our fishing industry around here than with anybody else. And certainly yours, Pam, is right on the spot because you're the business manager for Captain Anderson's Marina and have been for how long?
For about 15 years myself here at the
I know,
marina.
it's been
Yes.
a long time. And you, Congressman, you've been here long enough now to know what's happening with the fishing
Oh,
industry.
yeah, this is home.
Not just here, but through the entire Gulf.
That's right.
And we've got serious, serious problems. And it's wonderful to have this opportunity to let the audience find out what you guys are trying to get done for us. Now, for example, just for openers, how do you like an 11-day red snapper season, Pam?
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. Our customers are, had booked back in February
Of
when they
course.
found out that there was going to be a 40-day season announced by the Gulf Council, and now we're going to have to go back to them and after they've made reservations in their hotels and condos and everything, and taken days off work, and to come down here during that 40-day season, and they're going to have to make changes in their plans, and we hope that they will continue to come to Panama City Beach, but we're not sure until we talk to them. But we won't know really whether the 11 days is certain until we get that information from NOAA.
Well, the other question I have is, since the FWC, the Florida Wildlife Commission, has given us a inshore that goes out to the 9 nautical miles at 52 days, would you be allowed on your party boats to fish in that 52-day zone here in state waters?
We can go fishing, but we can't keep our red snapper. So the Amendment 30B that's in the rule now, it was going to be rescinded and then they retracted that this last week. Says that if you have a federal for-hire permit, which all of
Yes.
these boats except for one do, you cannot fish in state waters if federal waters are closed. And so, you cannot fish for the regulated fish. Okay, that means red snapper and some of the other fish that are regulated by the federal government. So we can catch and release. Yesterday, Ken went out on his 10-hour fishing trip, and they limited out on all their vermilion snapper, and then before they got to the vermilions, though, they limited out on red snapper, and of course they threw those back and kept their vermilions. So it's still great fishing. We're just not able to keep those red snapper.
Any triggerfish, amberjack, or any of those other species?
Yes, triggerfish will be open until June 11th, and that will close.
Triggerfish is closing June 11th?
Yes, and then amberjack, we're able to catch and keep amberjack right now, but that will close June 1st through July 31st. So we, they're tightening down on us and hitting our summer season here in the Northern Gulf.
And what do you see as the main problem with control, as the regulation or whatever is the main problem with controlling these seasons?
The problem is the uncertainty in the data. That's what causes them to put more stringent regulations on the fishery, and there's no need for that if they just step up and get that data going in the right direction. If they collect the data properly, they've got the tools to do it. But the government, the federal government, is not doing that. That's the reason why Florida has stepped up, and they have the proposal on the table right now, and probably go through with it in a couple of months, to have a Gulf offshore reef fish data reporting system, and that way they will know how many people are actually fishing for reef fish in the Gulf. And they'll be able to contact those people instead of people out of the phone book that don't fish. They'll be able to actually contact reef fish anglers, and those anglers will be able to tell them what's out there.
Well, it's my understanding that the fishermen have actually been in favor of like snook have a red snapper permit or a snook permit, so that
Yes,
it gives them a firm database.
that's correct. This will work very similar to that. It's an endorsement on your license. So when you go to get your license this next time, you'll be asked if you want to fish for reef fish. If you are going to harvest reef fish, then you'll need that endorsement on your license, and they'll ask you a couple of questions to go along with that. It's free, but it's mandatory. And that way, if and the mandatory part will affect you in that if you come back in and you don't have that on your license, then there will be consequences for that.
Well, see, when I go to California, I have to have buy a license to go on a party boat. And I think it's $5. And I also have to, if I want to fish for salmon, have to buy a $5 salmon permit. Mm-hmm. And that's the way they handle the reef. My daughter, by the way, happens to be a 25-year veteran with California Fish and Game, is in charge of reef fish on the California coast out of Monterey. So I'm pretty familiar with how some of these other states regulate. Same thing in Alaska when you go up there and you get permits for some of the halibut and some of the other fish up there. So there are ways to do this, and so moving on from you over to you, Congressman, what do you hear from the fishermen and from the both commercial, recreational, or whoever? What are they asking you to concentrate on most?
Well, I've served on the fisheries subcommittee on natural resources in Congress, and I'll tell you, I think the data is showing to be very certain that there are more fish, more red snapper in the Gulf of Mexico than previously thought. And so I don't think the data. I think the data is getting more certain. And I think what is certain is that the Secretary of Commerce, who's appointed by President Obama, and all of those that work under their direction in NOAA, in the National Marine Fisheries, have an agenda here. And I think it is, so I'm going to be a little more direct than Pam. Yeah. I'm going to call a spade a spade. And I think there are people out there that are environmentally driven to turn that Gulf of Mexico into an aquarium. And I believe that. And I think that the data shows that the red snapper is not overfished. The quota that was set arbitrarily low perhaps was overfished, but not the red snapper. And so I think that you got to keep your eye on the ball, and there are many people that are in control of the National Marine Fisheries, NOAA, and also the Gulf Council, which I think are not serving the residents of the 5 Gulf states correctly. Just in Florida alone, Jim, we're talking about almost 100,000 jobs, okay, that have now been reduced to an 11-day season. The economic pain, okay, at a time when our economy can ill afford this, we're talking about 5,000 recreational fishermen. We're talking about, just in Florida alone, almost $12 billion of economic activity through the fisheries in the Gulf of Mexico. I find that there is an agenda here, and so they can get all the data they want. I would agree, people want better data. We need good data. But we also need to have the integrity and the common sense to interpret it properly, and then let that interpretation put forth common sense bag limits and regulations for a healthy fishery, but also for a healthy commerce section where people can have jobs.
Meet Henson Hindenburg, king of the road at Baytown Tire, 2609 West 15th Street, just before the curve. For 20 years, he's taken care of your cars, trucks, and commercial vehicles. Baytown Tire carries tires including Michelin, Yokohama, BF Goodrich, and Uniroyal. A new set gets free rotation every 6 months. Alignment is done on the latest digital equipment, and his diagnostic can read all your computer info for proper repairs. All his service folks are ASE certified. Give him a call today at 873-8900.
The Captain Anderson makes fishing a breeze. There's a galley on board, and your comfortable trip is all-inclusive. Rod, reel, tackle, bait, and your fishing license. The traditional all-day trip from 7 to 5 p.m. Come aboard the Captain Anderson for a relaxing day of bottom fishing. There's plenty of room, so bring the whole family. It's a whopping big adventure, and that's no fishtail. The Captain Anderson is located at Captain Anderson's Marina, where the fish are always biting and the kids are always smiling. Please call for cruise schedules.
When was the last time you took a few minutes out of your busy schedule to enjoy the simple things? The wide open spaces, the uncharted territory, the moments that seem to stick with you for a lifetime. Well, what are you waiting for? Half Hitch. Get out there.
How will the new healthcare regulations affect you? Call Mike Nichols at Nichols & Associates, your local Florida Blue agency for the answers. Stop by today or call 747-0288.
Need a storage shed, pole barn, or garage? Who do you call? Two-time site-built buildings. They come completely prefabbed with aluminum siding and 3/4-inch floors. Constructed on your property by James McConnell and his crew. With no middleman, his prices is lower, and with easy payment terms. Here's my 12-foot by 20-foot shed that went through a 3-foot gate and anchored like a mobile home. He's been building here for 15 years. See the samples at 3822 Highway 98 in Springfield, and call today at 850-257-5729. When you want your lawn to go from this to this, you need to call Leroy Dennis and his helper Bill Grimes. They can do it in one day. Not only that, but Leroy offers discounts to seniors and active and former military. He and his partner can handle any commercial jobs. Don't wait to give them a call at 358-6696. Guess what? If you aren't satisfied, I'll pay for it myself. Don't delay. Call the experts now and look great tomorrow.
Well, may I interject something here? The Environmental Defense Fund and the Pew Environmental Trust are $2 billion
Correct.
Funded
Correct.
groups that totally want to eliminate
Absolutely.
recreational fishing.
Yeah.
And they have huge influences with their lobbying
Absolutely.
access in Congress. How about you?
Yeah, they know where my office is. I'll tell you. Okay, and I'll tell you this: they're not looking out. Let me tell you, they're not looking out for any of the people that are in fishing. So they're not looking out for the commercials.
Right.
They're not looking out for Pam and all the charter boats that are here at the dock. They're not looking out for the recreational. Those are the in my opinion, that's where the sinister efforts are coming from.
Absolutely. Good word.
To shut the government down. It's the same organization that are shutting down our national forests.
Yes.
And national forests are not national parks. National forests are designed to be working forests. And in the Apalachicola National Forest, we have more wood rotting than we are harvesting. And the pain that is causing on the communities around the Apalachicola National Forest, like Bristol and all of Liberty County.
Absolutely.
The same pain that I see here along these docks is the same pain that I see the sawmills and the loggers who are not being allowed to do what the national forests were designed by Congress to do.
And of course, that's a replenishing operation also.
Absolutely. It's very similar.
Yes.
It's very similar. And so, it is very aggravating to see what EDF, to see what the Pew Foundation, Oceans Conservancy, and I'll tell you, they are, it really is a concerted, organized effort, to strip us from our freedoms.
A pure agenda to do that.
Oh, no, it is an agenda. And I've learned in the 3 years that I've been there, it is an agenda. And by the way, it is an agenda that is running rampant, because the President Obama appoints the Secretary of Commerce. The Secretary of Commerce also is the one who determines who's going to serve on the Gulf Council. The Secretary of Commerce determines who's going to oversee National Marine Fisheries, who's going to oversee NOAA. This is from the head down. So this organization, these efforts to put people off these waters is in direct proportion and at the instruction and approval of President Barack Obama.
Well, we know that the recreational, which is where we are in here, is multi-billion-dollar industry.
Correct.
In the United States and in particular in Florida. We're one of the major states. And I know that your organization, your group, has done everything they can to try to bring all these issues to the forefront, along with a follow-through from you.
Sure.
And are there congressmen who are actually on their side?
Yes, and I will say that they've done a very good job of infiltrating a lot of offices in Washington, D.C. And that's
Does
exactly
this
right.
speak?
It does speak.
Yes.
And so, but I'll tell you, Jim, I come home every week. So I fly up and I fly back. And no one means more to me than the citizens of Northwest Florida who have been those that I've grown up with my whole life. And I come home to make sure that I'm connected to the issues. Growing up here in Panama City, going out of that pass and enjoying time with family and friends. And also being able to have, good seafood at our restaurants and have the general public travel to Panama City Beach and book trips with Pam and the boats that are here. It's part of our culture. It's part of our legacy. And so what we're talking about here is who we are.
Yes.
We're talking about these organizations, EDF, Pew Foundation, we're talking about them destroying who we are.
And of course, one of the other contradictions to me is the fact that commercial fishermen are required by law to report every single fish that they catch by poundage when they bring it in to sell it or whatever. Am I incorrect about that?
No, you're correct.
And
You're correct.
so by doing that, we have a very accurate accounting of how they apply to their quotas.
That's right.
In recreational, it's so convoluted that we don't have a really accurate way to do it. I was telling Pam, I've been down here when some of the party boats, not party boats, but private charters will come in, and if they've got 8 people on the boat, they'll have 16 snapper that weigh all over 15 pounds,
Right.
because what they do is they cull
Well, sure.
the small fish,
Yeah.
and it's perfectly legal.
Right.
On the other hand, commercial's size limit is 13 inches,
Right.
which is down at a market size, and it goes by the pound. And so,
Well, Jim, I can tell you as a member of Congress and having been there 3 years, I can tell you it's not about the fish. It's not about the fish at all.
Right.
Okay, because also on the Natural Resources Committee, we oversee the Department of Interior. And we see what is going on in Louisiana in the idle rigs and how they are removing the idle rigs, okay, that have become precious habitat
Exactly.
for all the sea creatures. And what we're seeing over there is with the use of demolition and explosives, we are seeing thousands and thousands of pounds of red snapper floating and killed as they remove those rigs. And yet, they turned a blind eye, okay? The EDF and the Pew Foundation, they're not concerned about those fish, okay? This isn't about the fish. This is about control.
Exactly.
This is about controlling the American people and the freedoms we enjoy. And so there's hypocrisy all over the place as we look down and examine this issue.
and one of the things about this explosive method of removing these abandoned wrecks is the fact that, number one, it doesn't kill just snapper, it kills everything.
Absolutely.
Porpoises,
Absolutely.
turtles,
Yeah.
everything, cobia,
Right.
king mackerel.
Yeah.
And when they float to the top, it's illegal to pick them up.
That's right. They don't want you
because
touching them.
they're out of season.
That's right. It is so aggravating. Just like when I got to Congress, I learned that when they did fish surveys on the red snapper, that they didn't count the red snapper on artificial reefs. And we all know.
Well, thanks again for joining us on today's edition of Jim Wilson's FNN Fishing News Network. And next weekend, we're going to have a continuation of our interview with Pam Anderson and our Congressman Steve Sutherland. Tight lines, and thanks for watching.